Hello and welcome to this episode of the Angel Rated Show. I'm Angela Bryant and with me today I have Tracie Shroyer from Launch Tech Made Easy. Tracie helps online entrepreneurs get past their tech blocks and launch their online course, membership or other business project. She helps people set up their business backend, connect all the dots and make a plan for their online launch, all the while living and travelling the US in an RV. So welcome to the Angel Rated Show.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to be here with you.
It's so lovely to have you on. And we've just been having a chat about RVs before we came on. So for anyone in the UK, we're talking a massive caravan. So this is where you are in a very plush looking caravan. So do you
Thank
want to
you.
just start by telling us about how you ended up where you are now doing what you're doing?
So it's interesting. I had a completely different business. And actually, I really started as a virtual assistant way back before anybody knew what a virtual assistant was in like 2009. And we had three kids, and we decided to raise kids that really knew a lot about money. And so we had this really unique plan around teaching kids about money, and everybody loved it and they wanted to know more. And so we wrote a book and we did all the things. Like, isn't that kind of how it goes? We do all the things, right? And then I went to expand it and launch it, and it was crickets. Nobody was interested in it. And keep in mind, this was almost 10 years ago that I was doing this, and people did not look to the internet at that time for learning things. And not that type of thing. Parents were more concerned with other issues that their kids might be having. And so, in a last ditch effort to make it work, I had signed up for a pretty expensive mastermind group in online business, and I went to the first event. And as I was telling everybody what my idea was, the guru of the event, the man running the event, very gently said to me, I've tried to launch a similar product and that's just not where parents are at. I don't think this is going to work. And so I was sort of devastated, like for about 2 seconds, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? But then it became like this just cloud lifted, this weight lifted off of me, because I realized I didn't really want to be doing that anymore anyways. And he was giving me permission to let it go. And that was such an amazing feeling. So I'm sitting at this table and I'm like going through all these emotions. And the people around me at this mastermind were, as he's talking, were saying things like, "Oh, he keeps talking about a landing page. I don't know what a landing page is. Why can't I just use my Yahoo or my Hotmail account to send emails?" And without even thinking about it, as a virtual assistant, I was just answering. I'm like, well, this is why you can't do that. And this is how you do this. And within 48 hours, I had new business cards made for this brand new business that I started all about tech. And the crazy thing was, I did not consider myself techie at all. But I knew more than the person sitting next to me. It turns out a lot more. But at the time, I didn't think it was a lot more. And it really goes back to people having that conversation in their mind of, I can't possibly teach somebody how to do something I love to do or I'm good at, because I'm not the expert. You don't have to be the expert. You just have to know a little bit more than the person next to you. So that's kind of how it all got started, and it kind of grew and blossomed from there. And I realized I love tech. And so that's how we got to the point where we're at today, where I help online entrepreneurs set up different pieces of tech for their business.
I think we've got a lot in common here. I always say that I've always really enjoyed making all the bits of tech talk to each other. I've done some launch strategy work in the past as well. And just
Yep.
that thing about making everything work together and make sense to make the launch happen. Yeah, really enjoy doing all that. And
Yeah, it's
completely
like
get
putting
that
a
some people
puzzle
hate it.
together. People look at me and they're like, Tracie, you cannot be, you go into like a mindset group or a mastermind group and they'll say, you can't be passionate about tech. Like, that's not something you can be passionate about. And I'll say, I am though. It's like putting a puzzle together. And if it all works, I get so excited because all the little piece. And if it doesn't work, it's more of a, let's backtrack and see which link is broken.
Yeah, you're just trying to solve that puzzle, and it's just magic, as you say, when it suddenly everything passes a message from one thing to the next, and it all, yeah, works beautifully and automatically. Yeah,
Yep.
so that's fantastic. So, have you got a big why behind where you want to go with it and what you're doing with it?
So I have a couple of them. My first really big why was that I wanted to live on the road full time. And I convinced my husband that he wanted to do the same thing. And so when our last child left home, we hit the road full time. So we've been living on the road full time for 4 years. And that was my big why for a long time. And I had, I always have to come up with something after that. And right now it's to help people, especially since the pandemic, to help more people realize their dream. It might not be living on the road full time, but there are so many people out there that have a really cool thing that makes them special, a gift that they could offer. And they don't know how, because in their mind, they've told themselves they aren't techie. Like, I could never be online. I'm not techie. It used to be that people would say to me, I can't do X, Y, or Z because I could never figure out Zoom. Well, clearly, like, most of the world has now figured out Zoom, whether it's, my 70-year-old parents or of course, the young kids have always been fine with it. But people start to realize, okay, that's tech. Like, they thought they couldn't do it, but you really can. And tech is sort of the same way. It's like learning to tie your shoes or ride a bike. They don't make any sense when you're first starting out. It's completely like awkward and foreign. But then once you learn those steps, you've got it and you're ready for the next thing. And so that's kind of how I look at tech. So my goal is to help 1,000 entrepreneurs launch their course or membership in the next 5 years by helping them realize that they have all the tech skills that they need. They just need to unearth them and let them come to the surface.
That's a great vision for what you want to do over the next 5 years, because I think the knock-on impact of that and all those extra courses out there and each of them achieving their goals and their dreams is amazing.
Right. There's so many interesting things you can learn. I was on a call the other day with someone who's a shaman. And he said, and people think shaman is this woo-woo thing. And so his goal is to educate people about shamanism. I don't know anything about what it is, but he needs help, like, doing the tech, because tech, shaman, like the screen isn't even big enough to say how far apart those are. But if I can help him, think of the people he will impact. And there are so many areas like that in the world where people, we don't even know what's out there, and we're just starting to get connected.
And it's those knock-on effects that keep happening and keep happening, and you don't know who he'll then inspire that then inspires something else.
Exactly.
The ripple keeps on going.
Yeah.
So is there something you want to be known for specifically, either in your lifetime or just in this next phase?
I think I want to be known for, and I've kind of started being known for, the idea that if I see something in my mind, I have the tenacity to make it happen, whether it's figuring out how we're going to go on the road full time. When we did it 4 years ago, some people were doing it. Not a lot of people were doing it, but we've inspired, not just me, but my husband as well, have inspired a lot of people to realize, okay, this is doable. And clearly we're not the only ones. There are thousands of people living on the road full time in the US. I don't know about where you are, or where everybody else is, but in the US, it's becoming more and more common. So I want to be the person who people can say, you know what, if she did it, I can do it. Because I think too often we just let things, it's too hard. I can't imagine it. And so I love being able to help people break through those barriers, not so much in a coaching capacity. That's not who I am, but in more of an inspirational, not that I'm on a pedestal, but I'm just a normal person and we figured it out.
It's just leading the way and showing what's possible and saying, I've done this, I've managed, for me personally, and say, I've left corporate and I've built an online business and, I've done these things. If I can do it, then yeah, so
exactly.
can everyone else.
Yep.
Fab. So get into something slightly deeper. Are there particular values that your business has or aspires to, or a specific impact you want to have in the world?
So one of the people that I follow pretty closely is Stu McLaren, and he has the Tribe membership course. And one of the things he says, and I don't know that this is exactly it, but if you make more, you can do more. Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this roadblock around making money. They have no right to make money. And it was kind of coincidental how this all happened, but ultimately he has started a program where he builds schools in Africa. And he and his wife have this mission together to build schools in Africa. And a lot of online entrepreneurs will raise enough money for a classroom or a school or something like that. And so for a while it was, I wanted to just be able to give more money away. And maybe this month it's building a classroom in Africa. but maybe it's next month, it's doing something else. Somebody comes before me. I want to be able to give abundantly. And if somebody comes to me and says that they need help with something, I can afford to give them the money that it takes, whether it's helping homeless youth here on the streets of Minneapolis, which is where we're from. There's an amazing charity here that is called Hope for Youth that helps homeless teenagers basically that have gotten kicked out of their houses or whatever. I love that. And so sometimes I'll be at an event and I'll just give generously to that. So it's not any one particular thing. It's just being able to give whenever I want and however much I want. I don't have a budget item I probably should. Like, I'm learning all about budgeting. I mean, I know budgeting. I taught budgeting, but I mean, for your own business, right? You just kind of don't do it. But I want to be able to, beyond the budget, just say, I want to help you out. And whether it's anonymously or whether it's part of a bigger effort, I just want to be able to help whenever I want to.
It's that thing about having the means to be able to do that and not seeing making money as being a bad thing, because as you said, the more you have, the more good you can do in the world and the more people you can support. And
exactly.
Absolutely. So tell me a bit more about your sort of more personal values and how you approach life. You obviously value travel and that sort of freedom and independence, I'm guessing, but what else comes into your worldview?
So I value fun and adventure and not taking myself too seriously. I think that all kind of goes along with the idea of travel, right? But also really important to me are integrity, honesty, a spirituality, and it doesn't, it's different things for different people, but just belief that I'm not the most important thing. There is something more important than me. And I use the integrity and honesty. I take that very seriously in online business because I think we went through a period where online business kind of had a negative connotation to it. People didn't really trust. I mean, my own parents, I think for a long time, they thought that I was running some kind of scam. Like, how could I possibly be making money on my computer, right? But so I went above and beyond to make sure that I was always like, if I'm in business and I'm working on a client's account and I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z, I also do A, B, and C. Like I take it to the next level because I never want anybody to feel like I'm giving less than my very best or more than my very best. And I think I felt that way originally because of some of the people I had come in contact with where I'd pay them a lot of money for something and they'd get done and I'd be like, well, but wait a minute, but even though you technically did what I wanted you to do, what I really, really wanted was not what you did. I wanted something else. I just didn't know what I was asking for. And so I always try to get to the real crux of when I start working with somebody, not what do you think you want, but what is your end goal? Because they're different. Most of the time, the people I work with will say that they want one thing, but what they really want is something completely different. They just don't know how to get there. They don't know what it's called. And so that's where that integrity and honesty comes in, is not just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but taking it the level further to get to the bottom of the transformation that they want to achieve.
They are, integrity and authenticity and honesty, all those things, madly important to me. And I completely get that idea that people don't actually always know what they want, but they know they have a good idea of what the outcome is they're trying to get to, but they might be describing it wrongly. And actually you need somebody who's going to be able to vision that with you and give you the steps and the tools to actually make it happen. So tell me what makes you angry or what keeps you awake at night?
So I guess it's the opposite of the things that are important to me is people who are dishonest or who are not living in integrity. That makes me really crazy. But then the other thing that makes me crazy is people who are so in their own little box that they aren't interested in other points of view or other ways of doing things. And I've come up against that a lot in my business with the idea that you can never, like, I think entrepreneurs hear that a lot, especially online entrepreneurs. You can't make money on the computer. Or when they say I can't, like my goal is to teach people that yes, you can. And so that kind of stuff keeps me awake at night, making me think, how can I get through to people that yes, they can overcome this or they can achieve something? How can I get myself to that point? Like that's a constant push. Like when I'm coming up against a barrier, is it my barrier or is it an actual barrier? And what can I do to get through it? And then it really helps me to think of what the people I work with are going through as well. And so I think that those are things that keep me up at night. And then, of course, I don't like to call it unfairness because I don't believe in fair, being fair or unfair. But I think things like, you know, kids on the street, kids who don't have a place to live, or I have a real heart for children. And I like dogs too, but I really like children. And I take, wanting to try because I have kids that had a good life. We have great relationships with our kids. And it breaks my heart that there are other kids out there who didn't have that life. And so that breaks my heart too. And so that's another area that I feel really, really passionate about, and particularly about kids in the United States in our own, because I think it's really popular sometimes to think we have to go outside our borders to help somebody. But I think there's also a lot of people right close to us who can use our help. And so I always try to be looking for those situations too.
It's very easy to sort of assume that all the problems are elsewhere, and actually in our own backyards there is so much going on that we all need to be doing what we can to help and support. But I completely understand what you're saying. That idea that I think there's been a lot of gurus, wrong word, but people in the online business industry who have said there's only one way of doing things and it's my way, and that's the only way of doing it. And they've been around for a long time, and there's people coming along now who are going, there are different ways of doing it, many different ways that we can go about this, and there's not just one, my way or the highway. So yeah, I completely get that. That's really a frustrating thing because it just ripples out and people start to believe that that's the only thing that's possible, and it's all possible.
And I think that's where, especially with tech, people get the idea I'm not techie because, maybe they can't set up their phone, or maybe they can't connect their computer, and a little behind the scenes here. But when we are in a town with one of our kids, I will often hand them my phone and say, it keeps doing this, will you fix it? Now, that doesn't mean I'm not techie, that I can't, I can do API integrations left, right, and center. There are different areas where people excel. And I think that idea of there's one way to do things and you have to be all in or all out, or that, I think during the pandemic, it kind of like exposed all of that and I see people pivoting all over the place and thinking, there are other ways to do it. We used to do things this way, but when we couldn't do it that way anymore because we couldn't be in person, then we had to come up with another way, and look at that. That way works too. And so, the pandemic was a horrible thing, but I think it challenged our way of thinking, and has permanently changed our culture and the way that we approach business and the way we approach life.
Couldn't agree more. So tell me how you keep learning in your business.
Well, I'm a course junkie, so sometimes I have to put myself on a course like freeze because I constantly want to be learning something. But then I'm always talking to the people that I work with to see how they want to do things. So I work with a lot of people on their launches, and there's a lot of different ways to launch. There's, multiple video series launches, there's challenge launches, there's webinar launches. And so I always like to have kind of a curiosity behind the clients I work with, because I never want someone to come to me with an idea and have me say, that is not going to work. And so by keeping my mind open to what other people have tried, what they've heard about, the groups that they are in, or the courses that they've taken, I kind of can learn a lot of different things just by listening and making myself open to other people's ideas. And so, that's kind of the professional side. But then there's the other side of me too, that with learning, when we're traveling, we make it a huge priority to learn about the area that we're in. And it's interesting how often, so one example is there's a place it's sort of Tennessee, it covers a couple states, but it's called Rock City. And in Americana, you see all these red barns with black roofs and it says, see Rock City. It's been around since the 50s. And so we went there once, and what it is it was literally built in the 50s, I think. And it was the series of rock formations and like little gardens that this rich woman had, and she put in. But the really cool thing about it is you can only go on one path. I mean, you can turn around and come the way that you came, but it goes through acres of gardens, but you have to stay on this very narrow path. It's like single file most of the way, and you kind of wander around. But you might be on top of a bridge and you can see down and you think, I can't wait to get down there. That's really cool. Or you might be down and you can say, oh, we're going to be up there. And so when we're out exploring, I like to look at the things that we do like that and relate it to business. And so I wrote a blog post about the fact that isn't that how we are in business? That we'll be like perfectly in a great spot and we'll think, oh, but I want to be up there. And then when we get up there, we see something else. We're like, now I want to be there. Sometimes we forget to think, a few minutes ago, this is where I want to be. Let me stop for a second, take a look around, appreciate where I am before I move on to the next thing. And so when we're out exploring, I love to take those everyday type of situations or those sort of touristy throwaway events and think about, how does this relate to business? How can I use this to kind of illustrate a point? And so I think we do a lot of learning that way as well.
And so tell me a bit more about how you make it work, working in an RV and traveling and running your business at the same time. How does that all come together?
So practically, the internet situation is probably our biggest obstacle to overcome. And I'd say it's one of our bigger expenses. And so we actually, my husband just wrote an article about this because we get asked about it so often, and it has nothing to do with either one of our businesses. But we have 3 internet hotspots for one for all the major carriers in the US. And then we have an international hotspot too. So if we are traveling in Canada, which we haven't done in a while, we have a hotspot for Canada. So that's the practical nature. The RV that we have is big enough that my husband has his own office with a door that closes. So because he's on a call a lot, he's not in online business, he's a consultant. And so it was interesting when the pandemic happened, everybody in his industry was scrambling to figure out how they could go online. And so he became kind of the expert of this is how you do it. So those are some of the practical things. And then we travel specifically, we'll think about where we want to go. And then the first thing, Brett is my husband, the first thing he'll do is check the internet and the Wi-Fi situation to see if we're going to have connectivity in that area. If we're not, that becomes a weekend trip or a trip that we have to take time off for. And then we both drive. We took professional or driving lessons from a professional. So because we're 60 feet long when we're driving and 26,000 pounds. And so we take turns driving, and while one is driving, the other one can be on calls. And we usually stay on our interstates where there's internet. So if we do have to move during the week, that's how we manage that. Or we'll block off time where we don't have calls, that type of thing. So those are kind of some of the practical things that we came up with to make it work. But otherwise, we tend to travel on the weekends so that it isn't interfering with our work. And then if we're traveling on the weekends, we're not doing our sightseeing on the weekends, which is when everybody else is doing it. We'll schedule time off during the week, or we'll go early in the morning or late in the day, or something to that effect.
I as many people know, my husband and I have done 2 lots of 6 months traveling, and both times trying to sort of take our laptops with us. So more sort of backpacking type traveling, but taking our laptops with us and then doing tourist stuff during the day, and then having dedicated time early evening, laptops out, to getting some stuff done before we went out for dinner. And it's really interesting how you manage those practicalities and juggle all the different things that you want to fit into a day, and enjoy life at the same time, because that's what it's all about.
Yep.
So if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? What would your career be? Have you got something else that you would have pursued that you would love to have done?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I kind of think I would do maybe something around travel, although it makes me a little nervous to, people say, follow your passion, follow your passion. Sometimes I think it's great to have a passion that isn't associated with your job. Right. And so I might do something around traveling full time, living in an RV full time, some of the things we were just talking about. But I don't know exactly I really love what I'm doing. Actually, you know what I would do? I would go back to work for the Disney company. I used to work for Disney. And they were in Florida, and my entire family and my husband were in Minnesota. And so I did work for them in Minnesota too as a manager for Disney stores. But I would probably go back to work for them, not as an hourly employee, although that was fun too, but maybe work myself up through their system if I was going to have somebody else pay me, and I wasn't going to have my own business. That's probably what I would do.
Good choice. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share about your business? Tell listeners where they can find you and something about more about your products and services.
Sure. So my website is launchtechmadeeasy.com. And I have resources on there, everything from, how do you set up and what's involved with your first funnel to collect email addresses. I have launch checklists. There's resources, a blog, and that's all great. And you can reach me at Tracie, Tracie, at launchtechmadeeasy.com. So, that I'd love to, chat with people. They can book a call with me. But what I really want people to know is that if you have something you're good at, and you do, everybody does, and it could be something that, everybody asks. For a long time for me, it was everybody was asking us, like, what are you doing to teach your kids about money? Like, your kids really understand what money is all about. What are you doing? So that was my thing for a while. Or maybe you're the trip planner in your friend group, or maybe you always bring the perfect bottle of wine, whatever it happens to be. Do not let something like the tech hold you back, because there are plenty of people like me. There are people who, will help you with your website. There are people who will help you with your graphic design. You can find people to help you with any of the parts that aren't your specialty. So as long as you can focus on being you and being what's awesome about you, you can get support and help for all of the other pieces. I mean, well, you're a classic example. Like, you're perfect. People can come on to, I can't think of an Angel. What's the
Angel Rated?
It is Angel Rated. I was thinking that was just the podcast. Okay. People can come on to Angel Rated and they can find all kinds of people to help them with their business. And so you just have to focus on what it is that you like to do, what you're good at, and go from there. We can all of us collectively, I say that, it can help you with the rest of it.
Don't get stuck.
Don't get stuck.
Yeah. Move forwards.
And stay out of your own way, because honestly, that's the biggest part of it, right? We get in our own way by the noise in our head telling us what we can and can't do.
Absolutely. And we double guess ourselves all the time and think of a million reasons why we can't do something and not all the good reasons why we can do it.
Yep.
It's been so fab having you on here, Tracie. I've been really interested to learn more about your lifestyle and about your business. Any last thoughts, any social media handles, anything else you'd like to share?
If you go to my website, Check Made Easy, you'll find links to all the stuff. So that's all good. I should be more present on social media than I am. So you can find me using the Launch Tech Made Easy handle. You'll find me. But I just love chatting about launches and chatting through helping people break through those barriers, especially with their tech. And like I said, I'm not a coach. I'm sort of a just do it kind of person, like just get it done. Like, it's time. So I don't do any coaching, but if you have like a tech problem or you need to talk through something, you can book a call on my website and I'm happy to chat.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. So to read the show notes from this episode, you can go to angelrated.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd love you to subscribe to the show and leave a review on your favourite podcast platform. And don't forget to share this episode with your friends.